Welcome back, not to my shop, but my little work area at the side of the house. As in the last episode, you saw I stacked up the wood at the side of the house, and this is at least where I'm starting to do the joinery. So there's the some of the wood stacked up, and the one that I'm working on. So what I'm working on right now is laying out the mortises for the on the posts. So I've got two done so far. This is the third, and then I've got one more to go. But I did a sample one. Like I say, I'm not a timber framer by any stretch of the imagination. So I did a sample one, and on this chunk down at the bottom, that's my first one. And what I did was I centered the mortises in the post. The post is 5.5 by 5.5. And I centered the mortises within there, but it did not give me a very deep mortise, not as deep as I wanted. So on my next go around, I moved the mortises over so it's 1 inch from the outside edge. So there's 1 inch here, and if we look on this side, there's 1 inch there, right from there to there. So I've moved that in, and that has given me a deeper mortise. So about say about 4-ish inches. And then on the inside, I'm going to put a 45-degree bevel or 45-degree angle on each of the tenons on the inside, so they meet, and that gives me just as much meat in there as possible. I've also put a shoulder or a shelf for the beams to sit on. So once they go in, then the beams will sit on this, and it's only 1/2 inch, which I know isn't a great deal, but I figure it's better than nothing. So that's my sample piece. Okay, well, I had some technical issues. My phone died, but what I wanted to show you was how I mark out the mortises and the shoulders. So what I start with is my square, setting it to 5.5 inches, because these posts are 5.5 by 5.5. So I set it to 5.5 inches, and I strike a line, a baseline. So I strike a baseline here, and on this side, where I want to put the two mortises. And once I have that baseline, then I can come in 1 inch from this edge to here. So again, I set my square to 1 inch, strike a line 1 inch in here, and 1 inch in on this side. And then once I have that those two reference lines, then I take my tester tenon block. So I want all all my mortises to be the same size, and all my tenons to be the same size. So I use this as a gauge block, strike a line on this side, do the same with this one, strike a line on that side. So now I've got outlined my my two walls of my tenon, or sorry, my mortise. And then to get the depth, I use this on end and strike a top line. So now I've got a baseline, and I've got my two walls for my my mortise marked out, and then the top. What I'll do next is take an X-Acto knife and score fairly deep, a fairly deep score line on all of my marks. Do a few passes. Douglas fir is quite soft, so it doesn't take a whole lot to score a fairly deep line. So I'll do that for the baseline and my shoulders, both there and that one. And then I find the center of the mortise, and I also score off the center line. And what that's for is it just gives a registration point for the point of the Forstner bit. So when I go to drill out the waste here, it just gives a center point for the Forstner bit. So once I have this mortise done, and the same with this mortise, then I use my my marking gauge, and I set it for 1/2 inch, and I just run a line all the way around with the marking gauge, because remember, 1/2 inch of this material is going to be taken off to give us a shoulder for the beam to rest on. So do it on that side, same on this side here, run it all the way around, and then generally I'll take my pencil and darken that line in just to make it easier to see. And you can see here I've already done this line. And then again, I'll take my knife and score that line there, and do that all the way around. I've checked to make sure that this face is square to this face and this face here. So I have a square reference face to work off of. If it's not, then I cut it to square. But this one happens to be square right off the bat, so I'm good that way. Anyway, that's how I lay out my mortises. So the next step is to hog out any waste that I can with the Forstner bit, and then come at it with the chisels and mallet. So we'll do that next. Okay, so now that I've got the holes drilled out, or a lot of the waste drilled out, now I have to break out the chisels and start fine-tuning the opening. So I've drilled out that one and that one. So now I break out the chisels and start working on just cleaning it up so the tenons will fit properly. So to chop out the waste, I'm using 2 chisels. The bigger one is a 2-inch chisel that I can use along the longer shoulders, and then the smaller one that I have to use for the ends is the largest one that the next largest one that I have, which is a 3/4 inch chisel. So those are the 2 that I'm using to basically chop down and clean out and square out the mortises. So that's what I'm working on right now. Okay, so finally I've got the mortises cleaned out and set. So I just use my little tester block. That one goes in, and that one goes in. So those are good. It's not maybe furniture tight, but I think for timber framing it's probably good enough. So once I get that done, then I have to trim off this stuff down 1/2 inch to make the shoulder. So that's what I'm going to work on next. Is I'll make a saw cut here and here, saw down this line and that line, and then I'll be able to start chipping away at that until I get down close to my baseline. So that's what I'll work on. of the things I'm watching when I'm doing this is that the cut or the chips don't start diving down into the line or past the line. I've got fairly straight grain here, so I'm pretty comfortable with doing this way, but I'm just going relatively slow just to make sure it doesn't dive down past that line. It's getting close there, but it's almost at the run out, so I think I'm all right. So it got really close. On the camera it probably looks like I got it, but the line is still visible. So I think I'm okay. I should be all right. There, once again, same as the other side. I'm really close to the line all the way around. So I'm about an eighth of an inch, maybe even closer in some spots than that. So I'll leave it for there, and then come at it with a router and my jig once I finish doing all of the mortises on all 4 posts. And then I'll just use the router and the jig one right after the other. So that's how I've been chopping out and my mortises and making the shoulders so far on each post. Okay, so once I have cut out the mortise and started to get rid of the waist on the one face to create the half-inch shoulder for the beam to ride on. Then I'll finish off cleaning that out with a router and a straight bit, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So now the jig itself is pretty simple. It's basically just two side pieces, a top piece, and then this piece that rests on the beam. And I level it up with the bottom, and I just have a couple of screws that I can screw in to hold it so it doesn't sag or move on me. And once I screw it in, once I get it level and screw it in, I can do my routing. And then when I'm finished, I just unscrew it, take it off, and there's the mortise. If I've missed a little bit, then I'll just come in with my my chisel and just clean up that little corner or that little edge that I've missed. But for the most part, I can get the whole thing nice and flat and at an even half-inch all the way around. So the beam's gonna in there, the tendon's there, and then it'll have a bit of a shoulder to rest on. So that's how I clean up the faces. Okay, so I was going to do the mortise and tenons as one video, but I think I'm going to do it as two different videos. So I've completed all of the mortises in all of the posts. So 4 posts, 2 mortises per post. So the next step is to cut the tenons to fit those mortises. So that'll be the next video. So thank you for watching. Please click like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.